it works great, but maybe there's a Wi-Fi issue. I don't know.
Maybe. All right. Well, we'll keep our fingers crossed that we hang on to you through the meeting so that we don't have to worry about that.
Thank you.
All right. So since it is 3 o'clock and we do have the full committee, I'm going to go ahead and get started. So welcome everyone, and thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. Just before we jump into the agenda, for the record, as not everyone is on screen, those who are joining us this afternoon in the meeting are Councillor Oosterhoff, Chris Kenny, and Barbara Kenny, who are all committee members. We also have joining us from staff, Julie Salter-Keene, who's the manager of climate leadership. We also have Julia Jansman, who is our meeting host, and I'm, of course, Elizabeth Fawcett, the committee clerk for this committee. We also have joining us David and Sue Lyon, who will be presenting a delegation for the committee this afternoon. So with that, I'll jump into the election of officers, as this is the first meeting for this committee for the year of 2022. We do need to appoint both a chair and a vice chair. So I will look to the committee to see if there's any volunteers for the role of chair. And Councillor Oosterhoff, I see you throwing your hand up there. Chris and Barbara, do you have a request to be chair, or you're okay with Councillor Oosterhoff doing this?
That's fine with us.
Yeah, okay, perfect. With that, then I just need a mover and a seconder for the motion. So if I could ask either Chris or Barbara to move the motion for Councillor Oosterhoff.
I'll move the motion.
Excellent, and I need a seconder.
I'll second.
Perfect. Thank you very much. With that, I'll call the vote. All those in favor for Councillor Oosterhoff as chair. Perfect. I see Councillor Oosterhoff raising his hand. Both Chris and Barbara, if you could just audibly say that you're in favor.
Favor.
Perfect. Okay, and I believe, Barbara, I didn't quite hear you, but I think you are as well.
Yes.
Excellent.
I'll
okay.
Louder.
No, that's okay. Thank you very much. That's perfect. So with that, Councillor Oosterhoff, you are chair. Would you like to ask for nominations for the role of vice chair, or would you like me to
I'm going to
keep
let
going?
you run with it. I need 30 seconds to open a door. I'm at home.
Okay, no problem. If everyone's okay, we're just going to hold a second here while Councillor Oosterhoff is away from the screen. Excellent. All right, welcome back. I'm going to ask for a volunteer for vice chair. So either Chris or Barbara, if one of you would be willing to put your name in the ring for a vice chair.
Okay. I'll do that.
Barbara, that was you saying that you would do it? Sorry, Barbara, I think we lost you there. We didn't quite hear you.
I'm prepared to do vice chair.
Excellent. Okay, thank you very much. Sorry about that. Chris, if you have no concerns with that, or Councillor Oosterhoff, then I'll just ask for a mover and a seconder for that.
I so move.
Okay, excellent.
I'll second it.
Thank you very much. And all those in favor?
Favor.
In favor.
Excellent.
In
okay.
favor.
Thank you very much. So with that, we now have our chair and vice chair. So I will turn it over to Councillor Oosterhoff to go ahead with the meeting.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We appreciate your work, and good afternoon to everybody. It's really good to be together. This is the one committee since 2017 that has not reconvened, and I think I heard that the last meeting, or we know it was 2016. So here we are, and it's good to be together and to just to catch up on things and do the things that we need to be doing. So good afternoon to everybody. I'd like to bring this meeting to order, and do we want no roll call, Elizabeth? Sorry, Madam Clerk. We're good, right?
we're good to go. We have quorum, and so we can go on to the approval of
Thank you.
agenda.
Thank you. And so could I have a motion for the approval of the agenda?
I'll put the motion forward.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder?
I second.
Thank you very much. All, any opposed? And that goes forward. And so thank you. We have an agenda. Thank you. A confirmation of the minutes, that the minutes of Pine Grove Cemetery Board meeting number 012016 held on Thursday, May 19th, 2016 be approved. Could I have, were you there, Chris and Barb?
No, I wasn't.
No, neither was I. So, but I
Mr.
guess
Chair, I do believe that Ms. Kenny was. So if she's willing to move it, that would be in order.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Barb, can you make
Yes.
that motion?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you.
For
All right, all in favor of the minutes?
Favor?
In favor, yes. Okay, and number 5, disclosure of pecuniary interest. Is there any one? And hearing none, we'll move to delegations. Good afternoon, David and Sue Lyon from Green Burial Kingston. We've had some discussions over the last maybe 6 months or more now, and it's really good to see you on screen and for your patience and continued work in this area. I think it is appreciated. You are here to speak to the committee regarding the possibility of green burial site adjoining this existing cemetery. You have the floor, and I believe, Madam Clerk, it's 5 minutes, correct? Thank you. Go ahead. Oh, yeah, I think you're muted. Sorry.
Okay, sorry, start again. Okay, we'd like to just introduce ourselves. I'm Sue Lyon, and I'm the convener of a local organisation, Green Burial Kingston.
And I'm David Lyon, and I'm also in the Green Burial Kingston group, and we're very happy to be here.
So I think ahead of time, hopefully everybody did receive the PowerPoint, but it's on the screen now, and we're going to just speak to it. Okay, so first of all, you might be wondering, what is green burial? Well, green burial has 5 different tenets, and so it's different from other burials. First of all, the most important one in a way is that there is no embalming, and therefore there's no toxic fluids that are going to be put into the earth and buried with the body. We also, one of the tenets is earth burial. So obviously we're talking about a burial, and we use natural or biodegradable caskets or shrouds. And it's possible for bodies to be buried less deep, which allows for more natural decomposition and nourishes the earth. For ecological restoration, then green burials have very low carbon footprint, and therefore they help in the restoration and protection of any natural habitats where they take place. And then there's the point about communal memorials. Now, when you go in a traditional graveyard, like the lovely one at Pine Grove, you see memorial stones with names on and dates. But in this case, in a green burial cemetery, then the names can be engraved on a natural stone or wood and placed somewhere centrally to identify who's buried there. And the whole site becomes a living memorial to the persons interred there. And for all of our members and for the people who adhere to this, they are happy with that without needing to have a specific one. But then the actual sites are recorded, I think these days a lot by GPS. And then land use, well, such a site could be used for other rituals and celebrations and for respectful enjoyment by the local community.
Next slide. Thank you. So why are we thinking about a green burial site in Kingston specifically? Well, Kingston claims to be a sustainable city. We were also the first city in Ontario to declare a climate emergency. And Kingston has in that way attempted to be a leader in the field. We believe that it could also be a leader in the development of green burial cemeteries, both hybrid ones like the one we're proposing today and standalone ones, which would be solely for the purpose of green burial. Green Burial Kingston as an organization has just over 100 paid up members. It has a much larger mailing list, website, Facebook page, and so on. We've been going for 2 or 3 years now, and there's a lot of interest. The issue is, until recently, there was only a possibility of green burial in Coburg. Now there is Glenwood Cemetery in Picton, which is closer, but it's still over an hour away and in a different community. But the demand is rising. We have talked with the people more than once at the Glenwood site in Picton. And we were told only this week that interest in green burial has grown more than 800% since they began just a few years ago offering green burials in their Woodland area. Now, it just shows the popularity of the idea. And this isn't a lot of people from Picton. In fact, the idea of green burial was catching on fairly slowly in Picton. This is people from
30 seconds, David, 30 seconds.
Okay, next slide,
Kingston.
please. All right, so our proposal is to add a woodland green burial site to the existing cemetery. And we looked at the bylaws, there's nothing to prevent that. We're proposing that maybe 5 acres of additional land could be acquired by the city. And yeah, that'll fine, go on. Next slide, please.
So we acknowledge that there are lots of potential challenges to a proposal like this, but if a project is worth doing, which I think it is.
Sorry, we'll just we'll stop it there, and we'll have questions. And I'm sure you're going to try to stop this clock. Oh my God.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for that presentation. That's really good. I guess I can ask. Yeah, are there any questions, Chris and Barbara? You have to speak up every now and then because we can't see you. So I'm sure we do have some questions, as I do. But I'll let you go first.
I have no questions at this point. I read all the material, and I've got to say I'm in favor of this. So I have no questions at this point.
Likewise with myself.
Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
I've read everything, and at this point, I have no questions.
Okay, great. Thank you for the presentation, David and Sue. So, so you've mentioned the Glenwood in Picton, and you mentioned 5 acres is kind of what the sought after size. And I'm sure we'll hear a little bit about that from our staff that will be speaking to it as well. I was wondering, regular cemeteries that have urns and all that for cremation, and is there what causes it's a growing awareness and a growing demand and interest. So what's holding it off? Is there a special license that's required for this, or where is this likely to go in your estimation? But like Glenhaven and Glen Burnie here, would they be having a section for that?
Well, the one in Glen Burnie, Glenhaven, there are lots of Glens, are actually owned by Arbor Memorial, and that's a big chain right across the country. And so far, they have not been interested in this. They are really more driven by they need to know that it's a financial gain for them, and therefore they would want a huge amount of demand to go there. And also they're governed by head office, so they can't just decide at Glenhaven that they could go ahead with that. Right. So you ask what else is holding it back. Well, I want to tell you that there are about 9 different regions or areas in Ontario who are currently trying to establish a green burial site. But when it's a standalone, which means it's not attached to an existing cemetery, when it is that, then the Bereavement Authority of Ontario is demanding 165,000 trust fund deposit that you have to pay before you could open a new cemetery. And just recently they raised that fee from 100,000, which is what we thought we were working towards. And so that has to, from January the 1st, that fee has to be paid for a new cemetery. Although we do know that there are people within the Natural Burial Association who are trying to find out if they could fight that, and did give a presentation to the Ontario Parliament about it, or to some subcommittee that is responsible for the BAO. But that's the barrier, and there are people who are all ready to go, have donated land, etc. But this expense is a difficult one, and therefore hybrid seems to us to at least be a way we could start. And in choosing how much land to ask for, at first we thought, well, maybe just a couple of acres. I mean, when you're talking about green burials in wooded areas, you can't put in as many people as you can in a flat graveyard where you clear everything so that, so that's one of the troubles, one of the things. But also, personally, we didn't really feel that if we said, oh, just start with 2 acres, we don't want to be coming back and saying, oh, could you buy another couple of acres later and have to do all that? So we thought that maybe 5 acres was a really good start. And I think you'll see a lot of demand. I know our members are waiting for somewhere that they could choose to be buried.
Very, very helpful. Very, really good information.
Yeah.
Do you have something, David?
Well, I could chip into that we have consulted with folks at Glenwood in Picton, and also with another cemetery which is out of province, which is another hybrid. And we came to the figure of 5 acres just as a good starting point. So the people we've consulted with suggested that, or agreed that that was a good ask in the first instance.
Just curious, so 5 acres is what how many sites do you see that potential for that?
Oh, good question.
We haven't actually, I mean, because we're at such a preliminary stage,
Yes.
and we didn't want to, start going into property that wasn't actually ours to survey it, as it were. We don't know exactly the configuration of trees and whatnot in the immediately adjoining area. So it really depends on going there with people with experience of starting a green burial site and exploring exactly what the possibilities are. It depends on the already existing vegetation, which sorts of trees we'd want to keep, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, thank you for that. If I can, if it's right to ask, Madam Clerk, was there something else that it was important to share at this time that you might have missed? Was there something else you wanted to say?
Oh, you mentioned owners.
Okay.
We have, I mean, we haven't actually, as I say, set foot in the property specifically, but we have talked with and been in touch with the owners of the property surrounding the cemetery, and they own 32 acres, of which the little section at the top, say 4 or 5 acres, would be a small proportion of what they own. They're very sympathetic with the idea and would be willing to negotiate with the city on acquiring that extra land from their property. Obviously, it would have to be severed and so on, but it could still continue to be land that isn't, as it were, fenced off from their property. They'd be very happy for it to be part of the property. They don't use it very much, and they used to have trails up through there, which again, from our point of view, is ideal, because the idea is not to say, oh, here's a place for the dead. It's a place for the living. It's a place where people can enjoy where they are and come to visit those whose loved ones are there.
Thank you, David and Sue. That was excellent hear your presentation. It's appreciated. Madam Clerk, do we have to ask if there's members of the public here or not? Do we do that?
No, Mr. Chair, not for a delegation. That's just,
No,
just
yeah, right.
committee
Oh, right.
members.
Yeah, that's later on. Yes, to speak. Okay. Thank you for your presentation. So we'll move on from there and for briefings. We have Julie Salter-Keene, Manager of Climate Change, Climate Leadership Division. Thank you for being here, Julie.
Great. Thank you for having me this afternoon as well. And I have a presentation. So some of it's already been covered, so we can certainly skip that. Next slide, please. So I just wanted to bring forth what the motion of council was. And that was last March, where the council directed staff to review other municipalities on the establishment of natural burial cemeteries within the city, and based on findings and research required to bring back a report to council. And that had indicated it Q4 2021, but that has been amended, and I've been bringing back a report to council in Q1 of this year. And so with that, Pine Grove Cemetery is the only cemetery owned by the city of Kingston, and through the research, we've looked at other municipalities and how they've included them in their existing cemeteries, as well as the standalones, which are very few and far between from what we've heard from Dave and Sue as well. I think there's one maybe in BC. I attended a webinar back in December with respect to that. Next slide. So I think we can skip this one because that had been covered already. Certainly we can speak to them, but the hybrid model, which we've spoken to briefly, it can be offered within a conventional cemetery, which Pine Grove is, and provided that it has the sustainable elements of the natural burial, including the requirements as Green Burial Canada has provided in. And the hybrid models can be included within the adjacent to or within a conventional cemetery. And from our research, it can be intermingled with existing conventional burial plots and use of marginal properties as well. From what we have found, different from a conventional cemetery where they go in and clear cut and flatten the area. We found in some of the municipalities that they can use the marginal lands that could not be used for traditional burial and could be used for natural burial. Next slide, please. So this really provides the environmental impact with respect to the difference between the standard burial and the natural burial. Some of the points have already been spoken to by the delegation before about the no embalming, using of a biodegradable casket or a shroud. Direct earth and interment can offer a more environmentally sensitive alternative to both cremation and the traditional burial. And the graphic here really shows the difference in the depth between the traditional and the natural landscaping after the burial. There's no headstones, there's no pavement in that. So it really provides the difference in the different burial types, as well as in the research that we've done, the costing between standard burial and natural burial is substantial. We've looked at a number of municipalities, and some have shown that a natural burial is could be up to $4,000, and that's really using the funeral home and the directions, but the burial itself, where a standard burial can sometimes start at $10,000 and move up from there. So certainly from that perspective, the cost can be quite substantial. Next slide, please. So this really summarizes, I've come today I requested to come before the committee today to seek feedback from you on the establishment of a natural burial area within the existing Pine Grove Cemetery. What we have found is that, as I said, the city operates the cemetery, and it continues to allow both interment right sales and new interments. There's currently 37 lots remaining, and which presents for consideration for the development of a natural or a green burial section. And as I indicated, the introduction of the eco-friendly elements to the existing burial practices could be considered for the cemetery, where some, but not necessarily all, the natural burial elements can be implemented as well. Looking at the bylaw for Pine Grove Cemetery and other municipalities where they've added in natural burial as a option, it's an amendment to the bylaw that would be brought before council. So with that, I'm really looking at feedback from the cemetery board as to the elements of a natural burial, the consideration of amending the bylaw and bringing that before council, as well as any, if I don't know, we've heard from the lines about the adjacent property and consideration of adding that onto the cemetery as well. And with that, I will be open to any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Salter-Keene. That was excellent. There's a lot to learn here. I will bring out. I'll ask if there are any questions from the committee.
Well, I must say that the present information that we had before this, and this is something that I'm in favor of, and family members and myself have discussed. So I appreciate the fact that this has come up, and I'm glad to hear it.
Thank you, Barbara. I think I heard you. Sorry, if you want. Are you? Go ahead, Barbara. Yeah.
Oh, well, I can't think of any questions right now, because I realize a lot involved in making this happen, and I don't feel that I have that kind of information, but
Yes.
I wanted to thank everyone for their presentation.
Thank you, Barbara. Yes. Chris, do you have any questions or comments?
No questions this time.
Okay, thanks, Chris. I certainly would like to make comments on it as well, and really appreciate that we've come this far, and the work that has been done already by city, by your work, Ms. Salter-Keene. And I think that if I may speak to this, that we would like to work toward an amendment to the bylaw, and would it be safe to say that, Chris and Barb, would you agree that we ought to consider amending the bylaw to allow for green burials and the potential for additional land?
I'm certainly in favor of that.
I'm also in favor.
Thank you. The question I had a moment ago was, I might have my numbers wrong. Ms. Keene, you mentioned that costing, I think you said, yeah, a natural costing you can get to 4,000 to 10,000, but green burial costing is about 4,000. Is that what we? Is that what you said?
Yes, it is. Sorry about that. Thought I was off mute. So yeah, that's roughly the estimate. We've looked at numbers. I mean, it's roughly that 4,000 to 10,000. I mean, and certainly with an conventional burial, it can certainly go up from there.
Yes, and we heard from the presentation that about this fee that is must be the provincial oversight or the regulatory body, or in this case, we're not talking a new cemetery. There would be no significant cost like 100 or 160,000. That doesn't really apply in this situation, because this is a registered cemetery. Is that correct?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, so that 165,000 is the provincial body, but because we'd be, first of all, amending the current bylaw to permit it within the current cemetery itself, and would not require that. And if we were looking at the extension of the existing cemetery, that would not be required as well.
Great. Then, Madam Clerk, that's something that I'd like to see happen instead of having another meeting is now we probably don't have time to construct a motion such as that, or could we? But how would we be able to move forward with a consideration of an amendment to a bylaw? How do we move from here?
Mr. Chair, that we couldn't do it at this meeting, as we do have to give notice to the public if there is going to be business advanced at a meeting. I don't know if perhaps Ms. Salter-Keene has a plan already in place that she might be able to let us know about.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. Yes. Anticipating the meeting, and I really was looking for feedback so I could go to council and report to them with a recommendation. So I was, thinking of different scenarios, and if the cemetery board supported the natural barrier, my thoughts was I would bring a report to council directing staff to amend the Pine Grove Cemetery amendment in itself, and then direct staff to work at looking at the expansion of the cemetery and reporting back as well on that. So I'll seek the clerk's input on this. I don't think we would have to come back to the cemetery board to present the amendment to the bylaw, where I, in my report to council, I would say that I met with the cemetery board. This was the input, this was their feedback, and based on that, this is the direction I'm asking for.
Okay, yeah, that sounds that's good. Sounds good to me, Madam Clerk. Does that seem right to you?
As far as I can tell, Mr. Chair, I do believe that's correct, as council would ultimately have to approve it.
Yes, right. It's not. We don't need to have a formal recommendation from this committee to council. We don't have to make a motion from this committee.
Correct.
Right. Okay. Well, that's really good news to me, and it's great to see that we're considering that, and that Ms. Salter-Keene can advance this. So that's really great. Do we have to? Is there anything else on the briefings, or can we move to? Is there also a presentation on the business side? Do I see that here?
Mr. Chair, I don't believe there's another presentation. They're a combined item, as the business item is only for information. Right. I do see that David and Sue have their hand up, and as members of the public, now that we're moving into the business portion, if they wanted to provide some thoughts.
Yes, thank you. Go ahead, David and Sue.
Okay, in the presentation of Ms. Salter-Keene, we heard that there are 37 lots that are potentially available within the existing cemetery. I just wanted to say that within the Green Burial group, we are quite keen to maintain really good relationships with those who are committed to the existing cemeteries, committed to other options. We're seeing Green Burial as an option rather than as something that is taking over. And so, while those may be available, and it might be possible to turn a section into Green Burial, at the same time, we wouldn't want the Green Burial to, as it were, impose on already existing practices within the cemetery, which is why we were talking about extending it into the woodland rather than simply talking about the already existing cemetery lots that are presently there. So it's just a comment, really.
Thank you, David. Yeah, Sue, did you have a comment? Sue?
No, that's fine. Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Salter-Keene, did you want to respond to that, or you're good with that? I guess there's not much to respond to.
No, I'm fine with that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. There's no more questions. Then we will move on. Madam Clerk, right? I don't see anybody else.
That's right, Mr. Chair. Unless the committee members had a follow-up question or a follow-up comment, we could move past the business item and on with the agenda.
Yeah, thank you. Chris and Barbara, are you, you're good?
I did appreciate the fact that there was some consideration for maybe maintaining or having on hand some lots that for traditional burial. I think that's respectful.
Yes.
Might you know, about having just kind of over the cemetery.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. So I think that's the intention, that there would be, the 37 lots remaining are also for traditional sites. Yes.
I think that is very.
Thank you, Barbara. Yeah. Chris?
I feel the same way. I like the idea of the 37 being remaining opposed to over.
Thank you, Chris. Yeah, we hear you. Okay, then we'll move on the agenda to the business. And we have a report on green burials of the Commissioner of Business, Environment and Projects.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, that was the business item that we just jumped into. That is correct. So unless there's anything specific to perhaps the report that anyone wanted to bring up, we could move past the business item.
Oh, I see, from the briefing to the business. Yeah, okay, got it. I understand. No, okay, so that was for a report for information only. Then if there's no other comments, we'll move on to, and we have no motions that I'm aware of, and no notices of motion. Is there any other business? I don't think so. And any correspondence other than what we've received before? The date of the next meeting for this Pine Grove Cemetery Board, it will be determined. And we'll take it from there, and we'll ask for a motion to adjourn from either Chris or Barb.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, and we have a seconder.
Second that.
Thank you very much. And so just before I adjourn the meeting, I want to thank everybody again. This has been a quick meeting, but also informative and productive. And I think that I look forward to hearing from Ms. Alter-Keene, and I'm available for you as well at any time, and to work with you on that as we prepare for bring a presentation to council. So I thank everybody for that. And David and Sue, again, too, thank you for being here, for taking some of the lead. And I hope that you are well connected with the city on that, and that there can be a positive outcome. I'm pleased by that. Thank you, everybody. And I will, the meeting is now adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Julie.